DGen Nation fam, what is up? What is happening? It's the DGen Nation podcast coming at you live, and we're happy to do so. We're going to be breaking down the NFL DFS Week 14 picks with you, DGen Nation fam. My goodness, how are we in December? We only got, 4 or 5 more slates, Kev, to break down with the people. For the regular season, that is. Of course, we're going to be coming at you guys live and back on the podcast waves for the playoffs, which we're always happy to do so. But for the regular season, we are winding down, but there's still multiple slates to get that money, and we got to start with this week 14 slate. DJ Nation fam, it's the DJ Nation podcast powered by the Fantasy Authority. At FF_authority is where you can follow us on Twitter and X. Ryan Williams here. You can find me on Twitter and X at Ryan_Alexander_W. And I'm joined, as always, by the usual suspect himself, the Godfather himself, Mr. Kevin Steele at Fantasy Route 13. Kev, we're coming off of basically a 3-game slate, really, when you think about, like, we broke down the Thanksgiving slate. We had a Friday Island game. We had a little bit of a lull, but for those, for the real DGens out there who are in the college DFS streets, you had Saturday to get after, and then Sunday again, main slate that goes into Monday night. So, like, real crazy slew of games that we have. But again, as we always talk about, we don't like to complain. But Kev, how are you feeling about things shaping up for this week? As we're coming off one of probably the more uglier slates to break down, and now we get another juicy one here for week 14, an 11-gamer. Talk to the people.
Yeah, this slate last week was disgusting. We kind of talked about it, tried to make the best of it, but this slate looks way more appealing. We have a 53.5 point total, a 47.5 point total, a 47 point total. Like, at least we have something to work with here. So I think that's a plus with this slate. And we have studs on this slate. Where in some of the weeks we haven't really had, but on this slate we definitely have some pay up options that you're going to want to try to get to. So I think there's a lot of different angles to attack on this slate, and definitely looks way better than what we got last week.
Oh my gosh. I mean, what is it? So, like, the Millie team that we had did not cash. I stopped looking at it because I was just like, this is silly. It was such a low scoring week too that really made it frustrating. But I think there were people, I saw people, first of all, the Millie maker, it ships with the naked Jacoby Brissett. I saw somebody win 50K in the DFS streets in a larger field, higher dollar entry. So, you got to throw that out there, but still wins 50K with a naked Cam Ward. Tyrod Taylor doubles were up there at leaderboards. It was real ugly across the board. You could really do a lot of different things. I mean, basically, if you had AD Mitchell, who we talked about on the pod, absolutely loved AD Mitchell and had a ton of him, which was nice. Had a ton of Tyrod, which was nice. So that helped. But yeah, there was that, and then there was a running back too. Help me out, Kev. There was a running back that goes for 30, and those were the two guys. Like, if you had those two guys, you pretty much were in a spot to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, the AD Mitchell stuff finally came through. I mean,
you love to see it.
Yeah, I feel like you chase him forever, and he finally hit. So that felt good. And I know everybody was all over.
HN was the running back play from last week, which he was chalk. He had to play him, but yeah, that was pretty much what you needed in your build.
Well, I had pivoted to, because HN only scored 22, and so I actually pivoted to Bijan, who scored.
Oh, Bijan, you're right. Yeah,
who scored 33. Like, that's who I ended up pivoting to, because I mean, HN was just getting, like, and don't get me wrong, like, HN is incredible, but like, he was drawing for like 35-40% ownership, and I'm like, why are we ignoring Bijan Robinson, who gets equally great matchup? Yeah. And he was right around the same price as he was. So I just pivoted over to Bijan, and that paid off big time, because he ended up.
Bijan
was sub 5% ownership.
Yeah, no, great call. Bijan was definitely the play. I saw some game stacks there, which I believe that Jets in Atlanta. So the game stacks there were paying off. for Bijan. No Drake London. That's always going to be enticing. But yeah, I mean, but the slate was so ugly, Kev. If you had AD Mitchell, the HM play, you still made up for it with those points. Brees Hall was real popular as of late too. I saw him in a lot of lineups, and that made a lot of core. And then Konami Vidal, a guy who I brought up, I was really kind of excited for him. He was a nice pivot off of a chalky Kenneth Walker, who, I mean, time and time again, I just said last week, I'm not going to play these Seattle running backs. There's just no way. Still end up with like 12%, Kenneth Walker. And it's just like, the projection systems are going to give him so whatever. But, Konami Vidal was like $400 more, and he ends up smashing. So that was a little frustrating, but no fun. It was even an ugly slate we get to have fun with, and now we get another slate looks a little bit better again on its head. We got 11 gamer to break down with the DJ Nation people, Kev, and we're gonna do so right now. DJ Nation fam, we're ready to break this down for you. You know how we do. We go position by position here on the podcast. We are going to break this down. We're gonna build our Millie Maker team. And we'll get you guys out of here. So Kev, Kev and I were kind of talking in the pre-show, and this is why Kev just goes ahead and hits record sometimes, because some slates were kind of lockstep. We like where things are going. We like how things are shaping up. This might be a week where we're a little bit more different in the way that we're seeing things, which is always fun. It's always fun when Kev and I clash. We haven't had a good clash on a show in a while. But you have the quarterback slate that's kind of shaping its head, and there's no way you could talk about this Week 14 slate without talking about Josh Allen. Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills are facing the Cincinnati Bengals, and what is supposed to be it's probably the matchup of the week. It's the bonanza of the week. It's one of the highest totals that we've seen on the year. Buffalo at home. The AFC picture is absolutely insane. From a playoff perspective, Buffalo is definitely desperate to win and help keep their playoff hopes alive, because there's probably no likelihood that they're going to catch the Patriots for the division. So they're really fighting for, one of those wild card spots. And, the Cincinnati team, this defense is just absolutely abysmal. We've attacked them all year. It was frustrating that even, on the Thanksgiving slate, we thought we had a late hammer where we could sack Baltimore against this Buffalo or Cincinnati defense, and it doesn't come to fruition. But now in a spot with Josh Allen, we know he could go Superman. Kev, I know you kind of alluded to who you want to see out there healthy for the Buffalo Bills in order to justify the near 20% ownership at this current juncture in time that Josh Allen is going to be seeing. But in a game script like this and a matchup like this, he's definitely a starting point for me. Now, I will say I probably will have, as I'm hand building, I'll just say, let me get to Josh Allen or James Cook. But the thing about it is, Kev, is that I likely will only play them together. The way that they're kind of the way that they kind of pop off and the things that this Buffalo offense can do and has been doing all year. Both of them are kind of the cogs and the pieces to it. So why pick one? Just take both of them if you're going to be attacking this game and hope that it goes the way that you want. There's no way that you could trust the receivers for Buffalo. I won't be doing it, at least. Tight ends will be interesting. We'll talk about that. Depending on who's healthy, but that just could be the way that you get all the points from that standpoint. So very interesting. Last week we talked a ton about attacking cheap quarterbacks, right? And it's kind of tough to do so in the same way, just because of tougher matchups. We have Tyrod Taylor's back on the slate, but it's a tougher matchup against Miami and the way that defense has been playing. Real tough matchup for the wide receivers, so not as enticing of a play there. Tyler Shuck was the guy who kind of got popular towards the end of last week. I saw people playing him. Olave is always popping off in the projection models. Maybe it makes for an easier stack with no Kamara and what you can do with it. But that's, it's going against Tampa on the road. That's kind of tough. Jacoby Brissett is going against the Rams, even though it's like, how can he keep getting away with this type of stuff? You could just see the meme right now, but he still does. The pass volume is absolutely insane for them. In the pricing on everybody except for Michael Wilson is really tough to grasp. So that makes for a tough stack. And then, we get to an interesting piece. Well, before I get to that, it'll probably be my second favorite quarterback on the slate, which I never play this guy. So it's even weird to say. But the Jacksonville Indy game is shaping up to be real nice, Kev. This is a game where it's in that noon slate. And, I see this game. I'm like, is this game played in Indy or Germany? Because just there's two teams there. We don't always see a game like the AFC South matchup being on the main slate. But the volume that Trevor Lawrence has been seeing has been real good. This is a real strong, it's a tough matchup, divisional matchup there. But they could, this is pretty much for marbles when we're talking about the division there. And I think there's enough that, Parker Washington is potentially going to miss. So it makes stacking partners a little bit easier for Trevor Lawrence. The wide receivers on the Indy side are really popping off the page as it stands right now. So it makes for a really, really good game stack. So I don't usually play him. I rarely ever play him, but Trevor Lawrence at 5,400 is really intriguing to me with the way that game is shaping up. The guy who I was gonna mention, who how I am, Kev, a 3 max, 5 max is kind of my bread and butter with hand building. And if I'm doing 3 max, this guy might be in play for me. It's JJ McCarthy at 4,700. And we were talking about this pre-show, and you were like, how the hell is anybody going to play JJ McCarthy? I don't understand it. What are people thinking? And I said, oh, that's going to be me. I raised my hand, let you know. So he's 4,700, Kev. I'm not going to sit here and talk metrics with you necessarily, but how many times have we seen these ugly quarterbacks who nobody wants to play? And I'll put the caveat, Kev, I won't play him if he starts to become popular. And by popular for a quarterback, if he's in the top 10 owned maybe top 8 owned quarterback pool, I won't likely get to him. It will be interesting because Justin Jefferson is extremely cheap. He's 6,900 this week. He's not popping as of yet, but I could see him getting more popular as the week goes on, because it's like, when is he due? And with the price tag going low, we see it all the time with these guys, AJ Brown and others. People just will flock to them. So if it becomes popular, I won't like it as much. But as it stands right now, it's not really that popular. I think we're going to have some popularity come on the other quarterback in that game, Marcus Mariota, with Daniels expected to miss yet again. And so I'm just going to attack it from the side of, listen, they have no other option at quarterback. We've seen them try and do, Kevin O'Connell's doing leaps and bounds to not make this guy be the starting quarterback, making up injuries, doing whatever he can to keep him on the bench, starting, Matt Brosmer, which was absolutely a disaster. It can get worse. It can get worse, Minnesota. You could have that for your last couple of weeks. So, let's see what JJ has. I think they'll take the wheels off of it. You kind of mentioned, Kev, that Aaron Jones being on the injury report and likely expected to miss. Like, that might even put more pressure on JJ to have to throw. Justin Jefferson's cheap. Addison's cheap. Hawkinson's cheap. It's a fun matchup to be able to attack in Washington. At 4,700, he's going to be in play for me. I'll just plug my nose and let it have it. Those are going to be the 3 quarterbacks that jump off the page as it currently stands for me, Kev. I will say that I'm starting to slowly get some interest, and I want to uncover it as the week goes on. But I could see myself playing a Baker Mayfield this week. His stacking partners are really enticing. Bucky Irvin being back in the mix makes for a fun, mega stack if you want to take him and maybe 2 pass catchers and Bucky. But Baker's only 5,800. It's a New Orleans team that I've kind of attacked as well. NFC South picture, they're kind of fighting there, and they're implied for just under 27 points on the slate, which is, it's more than Cincinnati. It's right around Seattle. Over Baltimore, they're definitely jumping off of the page. So I could, that's another game that I think could be an interesting game stack as well. So definitely looking at that. Kev, what's the quarterback slate shaping out for you, and how are you attacking it so far?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple different. I think there's some different directions here, right? Like, one, I think, if we just want to go straight to it, the meta so far for most of this season has been simply pay down, right? Pay down a quarterback. Don't use the higher priced quarterbacks on the slate and just pay down. And I think the one that stands out to me is the same one that we went to last week, and it's Tyrod Taylor. It gets another really good matchup against Miami over their last 5 games. They've allowed the most schedule adjusted fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. And I think there's a lot to like there. Tyrod Taylor looked good last week. And I just think this is another good matchup for him again this week. He has been, he's also giving you something on the ground as well. He's surpassed 40 rushing yards in 2 of his last 4 games that he's played. And like I said last week, like in his last 6 starts, now is in that last 7 starts, he's averaged over 18 DraftKings points per game, and at $4,900, like, and it's still a very cheap stack to be able to get him and add Nye Mitchell. Like, I still think is a great play again this week, and so like I have no problem going right back to that with him again. He's $4,900. He's still too cheap. I actually thought he was going to be priced up to like $5,500 or something like that. He really wasn't. So I like him. I think you can start there. It's gross, but Sam Darnold, like, the thing with Sam Darnold is that he has been really bad. Like, he's been under 8 or fewer DraftKings points in 3 of his last 4 games recently. But the upside is certainly there because, like, that is one way you definitely can attack this defense against the Falcons. The Falcons over their last 5 games have allowed over 275 passing yards, nearly 2 passing touchdowns per game. They've also allowed the 11th highest completion percentage and a 7.7 yards per attempt, which ranks 9th highest among all defenses. So, like I said, they've also allowed 3rd most DraftKings points to quarterbacks. And so, like, Sam Darnold, obviously, it's a very easy stack. You just go with him and JSN. But I also feel like maybe instead of having to go with him, maybe you just go with JSN and just get the points you would get. You could get the points through him that you would get through Sam Darnold because they're so much of a funnel in terms of where the ball goes. And so, but I still like Sam Darnold. The matchup is incredible. One quarterback that I like a lot, and it's going to matter to you, is Jordan Love. Obviously, you hope the Bears win this game, but I really like Jordan Love here at $5,900, and here's why.
Oh boy.
So, one, I was actually surprised that the Packers are 6.5-point favorites. It's kind of wild considering the Bears are like the number 1 seed right now. That's kind of wild that they're that big of favorites. Now I get they're at home, but the Packers have the 6th highest implied team total this weekend. And the thing that that on one hand, the Packers are a very run heavy offense. They average just 31 pass attempts per game, which ranks 27th. But Jordan Love has been very, very efficient. He's been great deep ball. He has the 8th most deep ball attempts this year, and he's completed them at the 9th highest rate as well. Schematically, though, this is where I really like Jordan Love because it really sets up well for him to be able to attack exactly where the Bears are the weakest. Because the Bears actually allow the 3rd most receptions of 20-plus yards. And over their last 5 games, they've allowed the 7th most passing yards, 261.6 per game, and nearly 2 passing touchdowns per game to opposing quarterbacks. And like I said, they've really struggled with the deep ball this year. And so that's why I think Jordan Love comes into play here at $5,900. You stack it with Christian Watson. And so I really like that angle of a game to attack, game environment to attack. So I like Love and Christian Watson stacks. And then if you're wanting to pay up, I think this is the question. Because on one hand, I think Stafford, who's also in a great game environment here, he's $6,900. He has been phenomenal this year. And, he's already had 32 passing touchdowns, which is well above, every other quarterback right now. He's averaging 256 passing yards, 2.5 passing touchdowns per game. He's also been efficient, averaging 7.7 yards per attempt. He's 10th at fantasy points per dropback this year. And so the one thing that we've seen, the big flip this year for them in years past is once they get inside the red zone, they became really run heavy. That has not been the case this year. They have been extremely passive. They're averaging almost 4 pass attempts more per game in the red zone than they did last year. And I think so. That's something when it comes to Matthew Stafford. Yes, it's 6,900. If you want to stack him, it's expensive because Puka Nacua is expensive. Devontae Adams is expensive. But at the very least, we know where the ball is going once they get inside the red zone. Like, they're going to Devontae Adams. Like, it is insane. It's almost like Devontae Adams is a goal line back at this point with his 14 touchdowns. Like as soon as they get down
It's
inside
incredible.
there, the ball just goes straight to Devontae Adams, and they're converting every time. And so either way, I just think that Stafford is definitely a good play here. Whether you want to stack it with Devontae Adams, with Puka is a little bit tougher because Puka, don't get me wrong, Puka can hit ceiling at any time. We'll talk about when we get more to wide receivers, but he hasn't, and since week 4 hasn't hit ceiling. But either way, I think Stafford's a play. The real question I think really is going to determine this slate though is this Bills Cincinnati game. Like this game has the 53.5 point total, right? And the next closest is 47. So like this is a drastic, in terms of this game. And I know this is where everyone's going to go. Right now, Josh Allen has at least in terms of ownership right now, is lapping everybody. He's at 17% ownership projection right now. Now it's Thursday night, so things could change drastically. Between now and then. But as of right now, early ownership looks like everything's coming in on Josh Allen. But I also think that the Joe Burrow side I think is also really live as well.
Yeah, I agree, Kevin. I don't think I don't know. As we've talked about numerous times doing shows this year with the projection models and so many sims, so many optimizers, just being available to people. Joe Burrow's not going to pop. Joe Burrow's not going to pop in these matchups. Like you said, I mean, the meta is that you're paying down for cheap quarterbacks unless somebody exists like a Josh Allen who could, who's in his range of outcomes is putting up 45 or 50 points because of the same rushing volume and what they do when they get inside the 10-5 and green zone. So it's like they're not going to justify paying $6,500 with an $8,200 wide receiver and whatever T. Higgins price tag is, it just won't pop. But, from the standpoint of like how you and I have played over the years and building, right? Like, Josh Allen's the most popular quarterback. The game totals showing us that, points are going to be scored. What's the biggest leverage play? You take the other side of it. How does Josh Allen pop? It's because the Bengals are popping off. So if the Bengals are putting up 30 plus points, how's that happening? Like Burrow's going off. And if Chase goes out there and has, one of his 40 plus performances, Burrow's getting 25, 30 points on DraftKings. Like you got 70 plus points between two players right there. If it happens to be, he throws for 4 touchdowns, 2 of them go to Jamar, 2 of them go to T, like you'll be fine with that game stack. Plus you have the option and the opportunity in this game to be able to take a running back on the Buffalo side and hope that the production goes there, who's going to be popular as well, and possibly a cheap tight end for Buffalo. And we know how that's been attacked. So it makes for a really, really good game stack, Kevin. And I do like that you brought up the Joe Burrow side because even though it won't pop off, in the projection systems, I think, on paper and just, when you're building and kind of talking it through, it makes a lot of sense to take the other side there and take chances. And Joe Burrow, for all intents and purposes, what we saw on Thursday night football against the Ravens, he came back out there and was ready to go. Like he is, he wants to be back in the playoffs so bad. He wants, to will this team. He gets frustrated when his defense can't stop, a goddamn thing. So, if Buffalo's out there putting up 30, he's going to do his damn best to keep up the score there. So we know the pass volume could probably be penciled in.
Yeah, I think, and I think with the Cincinnati side too, the best part about it is you just kind of know where to go. To stack.
Right.
It's straightforward. Where on the Buffalo side, like I almost would rather play Josh Allen just naked and not run anybody with him because I don't think there's anybody realistically. I think that like you could say like okay, like Khalil Shakir is going to give you 15 DraftKings points. Like he just doesn't have much feeling.
Maybe if he catches a fucking ball.
Yeah, like it's like the one that I was really hoping for was Dalton Kincaid. That Dalton Kincaid would be back because the Bills' passing offenses look so much better whenever Dalton Kincaid was in there because he's like the only guy that they can utilize down the field. Like he is like first among yards, average at the target, among tight ends. He's first in yards per reception for tight ends, but he's been out forever. And then he looked like he was going to be back this week. And then somewhere, I don't know what happened. We haven't heard anything of where this came from. But he all of a sudden now has a knee injury, and then he's coming out here. He's still getting limited practices in, but for some reason, he's all of a sudden he's all of a sudden out here, with this huge knee brace on. It's like, where did this come from? And so it's been wild with him, but it makes me less inclined to want to stack Josh Allen with anybody. Just run him naked, because he will spread the ball around. He's going to run the ball, rushing touchdowns. Like, I would rather just play him naked.
Yeah.
But the other quarterbacks that we haven't really hit on that much. One, what's your take on Lamar Jackson? Like, is he just broken? Like, is he hurt? Like, a lot more hurt than we know of? Because, like, he has not looked like Lamar Jackson in a while.
Well, the thing is, Kev, that I think he's actually looked healthier. Or, I shouldn't say, like, since he's been back, I think he's looked fine. It's just they're not scheming work for him. And they're not, the playmakers are not showing up, in this matchup. I mean, Mark Andrews should have walked in to, double digit, points. I mean, obviously Isaiah Likely was involved. So, there was the tight end there, but there's just so many missed opportunities there. No idea what's going on with Derrick Henry as well, too. He's losing some juice. So I just think the offense in general has become very predictable. And what's bailed them out in the past, Kev, is Lamar being able to take off and run. The play's broken. Okay, Zay Flowers drops the ball, or that play didn't work. Okay, so it's second and long. I'm going to make up 10 yards right here with my legs and then give us a third and manageable. Or I'm just going to, run and break a huge run for first down. And now the defense has to accommodate for me doing that. But if he's not going to run, then you can just sit back, play coverage, and, have these guys beat you. That's not the way that Baltimore's designed. So I'm really concerned just from a schematic standpoint on what they're planning on doing. And now they're going to play against Pittsburgh, even though it's a game at home. But we know how these games go, Kev. They're ugly. They're tough fought. Pittsburgh has always played Lamar tough. So it doesn't make me excited to want to get him into lineups. But I mean, it's any given Sunday, I guess. But but he's gonna have to show it to me this week before I start putting him in lineups, especially at 6,700.
Yeah. And then I guess the other one too. So like the one that's interesting to me a little bit, it would be Daniel Jones. Now, The thing with him is that, like, this injury has the fractured fibula. Like, he's not running. He's not going to run. You're not really going to see him run. And where I think that helps, because the Jaguars are completely vulnerable against the pass. Like, they have been terrible against the passing games all year. And so if this is a game that Daniel Jones can get things back on track in terms of the passing game, I think him with Tyler Warren or Michael Pittman or Josh Downs, whatever way you want to go with it. But, like, I think this could be a really good spot for him as well at 6,200 if you're wanting to pay up. But
yeah,
I think for me, though, my favorite, like, quarterback plays on this is going to end up being Tyrod Taylor stacks. And then, probably Joe Burrow. And then I'm going to try to attack this Jacksonville-Indianapolis game, Oh, and Jordan Love. I do like Jordan Love. I'm going to get there as well.
Yeah, that's fucking gross, but I hear you, Kev.
I mean, we're going to talk about that, but you're going to talk about J.J. McCarthy, which I get it. J.J. McCarthy's $4,700, but this is J.J. McCarthy, right? His success rate this year, okay, is 10%. Like, I want you to understand, like, league average for success rate is about 46, 47%. His is 10%. Like, I don't even know how you could possibly be that bad as a quarterback. Like, it's disgusting. And
it hasn't been great, but he is in his rookie year. I know we've had rookies in the past. Year,
like, EPA per dropback, like, he is back there. Like, do we think Dylan Gabriel's good? Like, where we playing Dylan? Because that's where he's at. Like, those are the people that he is around right now. Like, EPA per dropback, all these things. Like, he ranks 47th. And EPA, only quarterback that's worse than him in EPA per dropback is Cam Ward.
Yeah, and who people were playing last week.
which was a huge mistake.
It was an ugly slate, but I mean, people were playing them last week because of what it allows you to do, Kev. I mean, that's the game we play.
Yeah, but so my
how many dudes can you fit in?
Why not just play? Why would we not just play Tyrod Taylor?
The matchup we did, the matchup's not as good though. It's a tougher matchup for the people that Tyrod Taylor will be passing to this week, right? Like the way that Miami is played, just metrics wise, it's going to be tougher for Mechie, tougher for AD to pop off this week than it was last week.
Is it?
I think so. From a metric standpoint, but the Dolphins have been pretty good at sustaining wide receiver production. And he's going against they're going to run too high, right? So that's going to take out AD Mitchell. The thing I do like Mechie this week. Mechie was in play last week. They swapped roles. He had the drops. He dropped a touchdown. He dropped another one like for a first down. And Mechie had been popping off. He looked good. So if we are going to see, the ability to have some underneath work, I think Tyrod to Mechie would actually be, a really nice stack this week because of everybody being like, oh, AD Mitchell's back in the mix. We can play him. I think that makes for a little bit of exterior play. I don't mind Tyrod. I still think there's paths there, but we have a $4,700 quarterback here who is going to be like if Jordan Mason's not the guy. So if we don't have Aaron Jones here, Kev, I even like it that much more because they got to get Jefferson the ball. They just got to. They got to find ways to get him the ball. Addison can pop off too. He's going to be a strong play for me this week. He's 4,700. I'll take chances on that.
Do you think Jaden Daniels plays?
I don't think Jaden Daniels plays.
He practiced in full today. Like that surprised me.
That is surprising. I was expecting for Mariota this week. But yeah, I mean maybe he's wanting to come back. That's a weird thing with Washington is like, this is the franchise. Why what are we rushing him back for?
Sure, but like I would also say that it's not the injury is a non-throwing shoulder, not non-throwing elbow. So like that's not that big of a deal. That part of it, like I think it'd be completely different if this was on his throwing arm. Like you probably would see him the rest of the year. But
Mariota's like,
but you also have to remember like these coaches are coaching for their jobs, so they want their best chance of winning and stuff like that. So, but like I'll say like I mean a 6K Jaden Daniels with Terry McLaurin back, with Deebo Samuel back, kind of interesting. If Jaden Daniels is back. Yeah,
I agree. I'm not. I could be talked into potentially Mariota too, even in that same. In the same. I will say
Mariota, like we had all these dog shit games last weekend. That game, that Broncos Commanders game, was one of the best games all year. Like just entertaining, fun game to watch. Like back and forth, scoring. Like that game was excellent. And Mariota looked incredible against one of the best defenses in the league.
He's a gamer. He's a gamer. He's got a little dog in him. So respect that. Kev, let's talk about the running backs here. DJ Nation fam, this is what happens. We had such an ugly slate. We get you a pod and pretty much, I think we were under an hour last week, Kev, if I'm not mistaken, or just over. And flying through the podcast. And finally we get a slate where we can go back and forth. And here we are spending pretty much 25 minutes on a quarterback breakdown. So that thank goodness for DraftKings giving us this 11 gamer and putting some more relevant topics back into our lives and discussions to be able to break down. And here's another fun one, Kev. We got running back to break down for the people. At the top, you got Jonathan Taylor back in the mix. He's 9,300. He has seen a couple $100 decrease. He's going against Jacksonville. Like what a fun matchup for that to be. And I expect him to be, I'm not going to say extremely popular because of who else is on the slate, but there's some merit there for sure. I think if I'm playing Trevor Lawrence, I definitely want to get back on the JT bandwagon, he's had a couple tough matchups, on paper, which is led to his numbers not being where they could be. But, now they get to be in Jacksonville. I will say, I think this is like one of the more like the Colts haven't won in Jacksonville since like 2014 or something like that. I saw something crazy. So like there's something about them traveling to Jacksonville that just does weird shit. But hey, maybe this is the time that it breaks. Jonathan Taylor's probably in play for me, but just on game stacks or ways that I'm attacking that environment. Probably not going to be a one-off for me. Devon Achane, I mean, this dude's in play every week. The usage that he's seeing is just absolutely ridiculous. Like 8,800 is a fair price tag. His work before he even gets into the end zone is so prevalent, and you can just bake it in. He's got a matchup against the Jets on the road. Not as enticing as a play as it was for me last week, how it was shaping up, but still I'm keeping him in my thoughts. Bijan Robinson, 8,500. He just smashed us last week. This is I don't play Bijan when he's popular. I play him when he's unpopular. So if he becomes popular this week, I won't play him. If he's not popular, I'll see. You brought up Sam Darnold, Kev, and I think it's always an interesting way if you're gonna do a game environment to just throw him in that and see what happens. Want to monitor Drake London's status as well too for that. Then we got James Cook. I mean, James Cook is probably the best play on the slate, Kev, on paper. 7,800 going against Cincinnati. What the backs have done, against this team, the work that you're expected to see. If you're not playing Josh Allen, how do you not get James Cook onto a lineup? I mean, at least in single injury and people who play cash, like you're just playing James Cook. James Cook actually is like 50 or some yards. I think it's like 40-ish yards under Jonathan Taylor now for rushing on the season, which I was like, what the hell has been going on over the past couple of weeks? Like quietly, James Cook has just been taking control, and probably because of what you alluded to with this passing offense, with a missing Kincaid, and how that hasn't been the catalyst. They're just running over everybody. When Josh Allen is smashing, it's because he's putting the ball in the end zone himself. So him and James Cook, I love stacking them together and then taking Cincinnati pieces. But if I'm playing a one-off, good with James Cook as well. A couple other quick hitters, Kev, that I'll talk about. Toss it to you. I'm interested in Bucky Irving at 7K. He stayed the same price tag as last week. He coming back into the mix. If I'm playing Baker, I'll just throw him on there. If he's going to see the full, the workload that we've been accustomed to seeing him at Rachaad White's absolutely trash. And Sean Tucker, it was nice to see him pop off against Buffalo, but he could go back to, being in the role that he had. But Bucky Irving is that lead back, and I do like him in this matchup against the Saints. You mentioned Jordan Love, and Josh Jacobs could find himself in for a day against this Chicago Bears front seven, especially if they're going to be missing these linebacking cores as well. Josh Jacobs at home has been absolutely, he's just been a smash play. Definitely could, see utilized work there. He's only 6,800. Been a while since we had on a main slate too, so that'd be interesting. I know he's got the Q tag. We'll monitor that as it comes. Breece Hall is just going to keep popping off for me. While he stays into this, last week he was 6K. He's only 6,500 this week. His just projected, workload right now in this Tyrod Taylor offense is very nice, and the floor is definitely there. He got there last week with some touchdowns that definitely helped him. So, but when they're getting in close, they're going to give him the ball. Definitely like that. Quinshon Judkins, Kev, is one that I kind of wanted to pick your brain on. He hasn't been one that I've gone to, but Cleveland's favored, home favorite, a back who's getting most of the work. I think Sampson is on the injury report and expected to miss. Those are 3 boxes enough for me to keep him in play. In the cheap range, I'm not sure. I have no idea about RJ Harvey. I drafted him in some dynasty leagues, I'll say, because of some hype that I was seeing around this guy and Sean Payton taking running back. But, does Sean Payton make good picks? I have no idea. I don't know if RJ Harvey's good, but he is seeing work. He's 5,700 going against one of the worst teams in football, in the Vegas Raiders. He's probably in play this week. I did have interest in Aaron Jones, but if he's going to be banged up or expected to miss, that's definitely going to hurt that for me. And then the kid Devin Neal, who's getting some chances there. He's only 5,100. He did see a sustainable workload that we would like for our lead back in that first start last week, and it was a tough matchup. He's getting another tough matchup here against Tampa Bay, but if we can expect points to be scored in that game. And if he's just going to be the guy, if there's not going to be anybody else, I will keep him in the mix for myself as well. Long story short, Kev, I am looking pretty much at that 7K to 6K range to get 2 backs at least. Maybe it's a 3-back week, but I do like being able to pay down to pay up at wide receiver for the flex. That is, what's shaping up to you, Kev, for this week, and what are you doing at running back?
Yeah, so I think for me, one, I completely agree with you on Bucky Irving. Like, it was wild last week because, like, all the talk was that he was going to be on some sort of snap count.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he was on a snap count. Like, technically he was, because if you compare it to, like, what he was doing prior to his injury, because he played 55% of the snaps, but prior to the injury, he was playing 70% of the snaps, running 60% of the routes. So, like, yeah, it was down from what he typically was, but he still had 19 touches in the game. So,
right.
Like, okay. And, like, I think it's only going to go up from there. And so I completely agree with you in the matchup against the Saints. Bucky Irving at 7K. Love that. I love that. I'm going to have a ton of Bucky Irving at that price. I think he's underpriced for the role that he's going to continue to see. I think Chase Brown, who right now is drawing, like, no ownership. Like, I was surprised that I know that last week that, like, it was frustrating because he went from playing 90% of the snaps with Samaje Perine out down to 60%. And then he ran prior to Samaje Perine being back, he was running 80% of the routes, and that dropped down to 55% of the route last week. But he still touched the ball 22 times, and he has now had over 100 scrimmage yards in 6 straight games. Like, he is balling. He's playing really, really well, and I still have interest in him at 6,700. The Bills are awful against the run. They have been all year. They've allowed the 4th most PPR points to running backs. Joe Burrow is a check down merchant, so he's going to see pass volume as well. And so, like, I think Chase Brown is a great play at 6,700, and especially if he's carrying no ownership, it's a great schematic matchup for him. The thing with Quinshon Judkins, like, I agree with you on the surface that, like, it can be a good play but he just doesn't really get involved in the passing game all that much. Like, he's not effective there. And so, like, that always worries me because he has to get there through touchdown volume, which he certainly can against the Titans. But I will say this, the Titans have at times been pretty, especially as long as Justice Simmons is out there, then they are a decent run defense. And so, like, it just worries me that for $6,400, yes, I don't think the matchup is terrible by any means, but, like, he's so touchdown dependent that it makes it tougher to play because he can absolutely kill you if he doesn't find the end zone because he's not involved in the passing game, especially on a full PPR site like DraftKings. So that's the only thing that worries me about him is pretty much that. RJ Harvey, I agree with you. I also think he's a pretty strong play here, but, like, we're just not seeing the role that we thought we would possibly see with him because it's Sean Payton, and this is what Sean Payton does. Like, it's basically a 3-back committee where RJ Harvey is getting the majority, or not the majority, but he's getting the largest piece of the pie. He's playing about 47% of the snaps, which is crazy that, Jaleel McLaughlin and Tyler Bidet are out here getting, as much opportunity as they are. Yeah. And so, like, it's really killing Harvey's upside. Now, I'll say the matchup is good, but the Raiders have been, like, a decent run defense this year. Like, that has not been an area that they've really struggled with, but they have allowed the 3rd most rushing touchdowns because there's so many negative game scripts and teams just are running the ball at them at such a high pace. So I still think RJ Harvey's in play, but there's a lot of volatility here because he's not the true workhorse in this backfield. And McLaughlin and Bidet are going to mix in here. So now one thing I will say is that Max Crosby right now hasn't practiced yet this week. And so if Max Crosby's out, like, they have nothing, like, to get after the quarterback or anything with. So,
that's what we're talking about. Hell yeah.
So, like, that is a problem. And so, like, but I will say, like, RJ Harvey, he's still 5,700. So I think he's in play. And but like I said, there's volatility there. Now, I will say, looking a little bit further in Aaron Jones, I know we talked about this before the show, but he actually got in a limited practice. Yesterday was sounding a little bit less likely that he was going to play. But the fact that he got in a limited practice today, I think that at least bodes well for him possibly being available. And he's 5,100 or 5,300. So I guess you could look there if you wanted to in this matchup against the Commanders, because really the Commanders have been really bad on defense, like for most of the year. Like we're okay with picking on them. So like I get your argument, like with JJ McCarthy, and do they finally turn it around, and does he figure it out? And
Absolutely.
JJ McCarthy or Justin Jefferson, because the matchup is great. It's just I don't trust JJ McCarthy as far as I can throw.
How can you?
And then Devin Neal, I do like that call. The Bucs actually have not been. Typically, the Bucs are much more of a pass funnel, but the Bucs have actually been pretty vulnerable to running backs this year. They actually allowed the 8th most DraftKings points to running backs this year. So $5,100 Devin Neal, like I'm okay with it. Like it probably would have to be like at 150 set or something like that if I was going to get there. I'm probably not playing them in in your like a single entry or a 3 entry max, anything like that. Like I probably wouldn't have any consideration for Devin Neal, but I think it's certainly like a 20 entry, 150 max, something like that. I definitely would want some Devin Neal because the volume is there, because like he's playing 71% of the snaps. He ran 71% of the routes, which is super encouraging last week. He had 17 touches. So, like, for a $5,100 player in a good matchup, like, there's signal there for him to be able to pop off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's he just with the workload that he saw, which I did not expect last week. I wasn't really on him. Wanted to kind of see it. I actually thought that Taysom Hill could take some work away from him, to be honest. But yeah, no, it was encouraging to see what he saw. Kev, can you explain to me why Ashton Jeanty is going to be one of the more popular running backs on the slate this week?
That I don't know. That's baffling to me. Because typically the Broncos are pretty solid against the run. But we've seen this game before. I mean, now granted that was in Denver, but still, like they did absolutely nothing. Like their offense did nothing. Like it was. I mean,
Jeanty was the only one that got in, right? He has the touchdown, but
yeah, he scored it. He did it. Yeah, I think he scored a touchdown, but that was it. Like, but it was a gross game. Like
disgusting.
Like, yeah. So like I don't know. Like that. Like he's 6,100, so I guess he's on the cheaper side, and he's still seeing like really good volume, and he's seen 8 or more targets in 3 straight games, so that's a plus. So like I guess he could get there through the air, like if he's really peppered with targets the way that he has been. But like on a per touch basis, like he has not been good as a runner. Like, but it's also like there's been a lot of debate like on like Twitter and stuff like that about Jeanty and like, is he Trent Richardson and all this stuff. But like their offensive line is so, yeah. But like their offensive line is so bad. Incredibly bad.
Don't do that to him.
That like I don't think that you can that you can really blame him. Like they're missing their only 2 good offensive linemen. They have been for most of the year, and like it's just a disaster over there.
Well,
like, when you get him in space, which is like finally they're actually utilizing him in the passing game, which is what they needed to do a long time ago. Because like when you get him in space, like you see how dynamic he is and his tackle breaking ability and his ability to do all and how shifty he is. But like he has nowhere to run in his backfield because they're in the backfield as soon as he touches the ball every single time. And so finally, because like earlier in the year, they really weren't utilizing him in the passing game much. And now they're finally utilizing him a lot more in the passing game, which I think has actually helped him and where he's had some usable weeks. So, I mean, he's 6,100, but like the matchup is not good. And this game could be really gross again. So like I probably wouldn't get there again. I guess if you're playing, 150 lineups, like, yeah, I probably would want some exposure to him, but I don't know if I could get there like pure, like playing him, like I said, a single entry or a 3 entry max or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's projected right now to be one of the more popular plays on the slate, which I just thought was weird because I usually never would target, a running back in any capacity against this Broncos defense on the road. But
right now he's projected. He's the 5th highest projected for the 5th highest owned running back on the slate.
Yeah, that's crazy. Poor one out for Chip Kelly, though. I think, this is an offense that definitely will look different, right? And mentioning the pass catching work that he's going to be seeing. And maybe it's just a sour taste in my mouth because I actually got onto Jeanty late. I just felt like he was a nice way to get exposure to the afternoon slate lineups in the main slate last week, and then Brock Bowers goes out and just absolutely crushes hopes and dreams. And you could have afforded him just by paying down. So I'm probably still a little bit bitter about that. Quickly, Kev, just I see we2K in the chat. Appreciate you coming in, getting these questions in. Any love for DeAndre Swift, I assume, is who he's referring to this week with the Bears. You are talking about Jordan Love, Kev. So do you have run backs from one of the better rushing offenses in the league in the Chicago Bears this week?
I think you could get there with Swift. Now, it's not the best matchup against the Packers, but like Swift has consistently, like, I feel like been one of the more like disrespected, like no respect on his name. Like for some, I mean, he's had like what 3, 4, 5, somewhere around there, like really solid games this year. Obviously, they're coming off that huge game against the against the Eagles, where he went off for 23 DraftKings points, and then obviously Monangai also got there. Both of them just absolutely crushed. But I think they ended up with like 270 rushing yards or something like that at the end of the game or whatever it was. But obviously that's how like the Bears want to play. The Bears want to lean on the run. They do not want to really throw the ball as much, which has killed Rome Odunze. That's what like a lot of people talked about this week about like what the hell happened to Rome Odunze. Like for the first month, like he was an absolute baller, and he's just fallen off the face of the earth. Like recently, but they've just been so. I think some of it is to maybe try to hide Caleb Williams a little bit or try to protect him because like I go back and forth like on how good Caleb Williams is. Like I think there's some things that he does really well, but then I also think there's times that he also struggles with a lot of things where I think they've just decided they're going to try to just run the ball as much as they can. Mm-hmm. And so like Swift is $5,900. So like he definitely could get there in this matchup against Green Bay. But again, it's not the best matchup. I'll say that.
Yeah, I agree. And Kyle Monanga's not going anywhere either. So, it's like if Swift isn't able to get going. Now, the thing is like, I don't think I've seen a game where like Swift isn't getting, if Swift's not able to get something going. Let's see what Kyle Monanga. Every time Kyle Monanga comes in, this dude's getting 3, 4, 5 yards a pop. I mean, he just has so much juice to him. So, he could be an interesting leverage.
He's taking touchdowns away from Swift too. I mean, he scored a touchdown in 4 straight games now. Monangai has.
Yeah, absolutely. And not even like they're not even shade to be thrown at Swift. It's just like it's kind of like it's really not like this now, but at the start of the year, how we were feeling with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, or even last year, David Montgomery just kind of just still being in the mix, even though Swift is. I'm not going to say that they're both the same 1A, 1B, but, as we see more of these split backfields, it can be that second guy that just gets a little bit more of the work. But interesting. I wanted to bring that one up, Kev, especially with your interest in Jordan Love, to see how you were going to maybe potentially have some run backs on that side.
The only other player that I do like Chris Rodriguez is kind of interesting to me in this spot because like I'm not really because like he's definitely not really involved in the passing game, but he's definitely the early down grinder. He's definitely the goal line back. Like I mean, it's definitely in the range of possibility where you could see like 16 to 18 carries here, and like this isn't necessarily a spot against Minnesota where you're like, again, like I don't think that this is a spot where you think that they're just going to get down like really quickly and they're going to be playing from behind. Like I just don't see that happening. So like Chris Rodriguez is only 4,700. Again, it feels like it's kind of like because like I said, he's not really involved in the passing game, but like it is probably not. He's not going to see probably the level of opportunity that like a Quinshon Judkins will. But like he's a similar type of play because he's just strictly ground. He's just on the ground. Like you're not going to get anything through the air. So like, but Chris Rodriguez though at 4,700, like if he could find the end zone, like I don't hate the play at 4,700. Like kind of an off the wall. Really, he's going to carry no ownership whatsoever. But like, I don't hate the play.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought of that, but I am interested in that game environment. So he could potentially be in play. I will say that I'll look to do more exploring of Washington pieces if I know that, or if we know that Jaden Daniels would be in versus Marcus Mariota. So that's an interesting one to monitor. And I'm not sure what the injury report is. I know, Sean McVay is one of the biggest coach speak coaches that we have out there. It's just like it's hard to ever buy into really 100% of what he's saying. But it sounds like everybody's going to suit up, right? That has a Q tag right now. But Kyron Williams might be more questionable than I think, it might be let on. And Blake Corum has really showed some juice, when he's got some opportunities to be out there. So that would be one that would be worth monitoring for me because, Blake Corum would be a real interesting, strong play at only 4,600, even with the way that they're passing in the red zone because of the explosiveness of the backfield there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if Kyron Williams is out, Blake Corum becomes an absolute must play. Like he's a lock button, free square. Because he would be just an absolute workhorse. Like the problem with Kyron now is that like he's splitting touches with Corum at a pretty decent clip. Like Corum's out here getting like 8 to 12 touches a game. And if Kyron were to be out, like I don't see like Jaquiz Rogers or Jaquiz Hunter coming in and getting opportunity. And so like it would be wheels up for Blake Corum. But before we move over to wide receiver, man, we haven't even got to wide receiver. We're almost an hour in. What is going on with this? The only thing I want to say
DJ Nation fam.
I know. Is
it's a classic episode.
Is of the like top 4 or 5, the 7,500 and above group, like what priority would you put on? Like how would you rank them in terms of how you'd want to play them?
So we're talking James Cook above, or who else are you?
Or Derrick Henry above?
I mean, we didn't talk about Derrick Henry at all. I'm not playing Derrick Henry at all until I can buy in more to the Baltimore offense. That's just how it is, and I'll probably only have 5 lineups. So I mean, if I was 150 maxing, that'd be different. But even if I was 20 maxing, I don't think I'd get there. So for me, it'd be James Cook 1, probably HN 2, and Jonathan Taylor 3, Bijan 4.
I think for me, it's going to be Jonathan Taylor 1. I think this could be a current classic Jonathan Taylor eruption spot that he's going to carry no ownership. He's a little bit cheaper now at 9,300, but like I would put Taylor 1, and then Achane 2, Cook 3, Bijan 4, and then Henry 5. I think is how I'd view it.
Yeah. So let's just get to wide receiver, Kev, because these are the things that you say, which are just like quintessential Kev takes, juxtaposition takes, as we, and you've stuck to it. You've stuck to your guns. You've been on this probably for the past 3 pods that we've done. I think it's been 3 pods at least. But so Jonathan Taylor. Now, granted, they've been tough matchups, right? But he's 9,300. And he's had some real tough spots. Has not looked like the Jonathan Taylor that we're accustomed to, but he's got multiple pop-off games. He's got 40 burger, 50 burgers to his name for this year. So I give you that, Kev. So you're willing to pay Jonathan Taylor. He's your number 1 running back of the pay-up options. Now, can you talk to the people about JSN and Puka Nacua? Because the JSN and Puka Nacua are going to pop off for people this week in projection models. 9K, 8,700 respectively. Their pre-touchdown production, Kev, like I know what you're saying with the price tag. Are they going to pay it off? What do they have to do to kill you? Things of that nature. But if the touchdowns start to go their way, we saw this 2 weeks ago with JSN. JSN was definitely on his way to really break shit when the touchdowns start to fall his way. I feel the same about Puka this week as well too. Like, I mean, how long can Devontae Adams really be putting up these insane touchdown numbers? It's absolutely absurd. I know what Sean McVay wants to do. He's basically trying to give Matthew Stafford the MVP by just racking up Stafford's touchdown numbers, which more power to him. Fuck the league. Remember when Sean McVay wanted to retire? Like what happened with that? Now he's back on a vengeance and trying to get his team back to another Super Bowl. So you love to see it. I love the fuck you that he's doing. But again, Devontae Adams is 7,700. We got Puka Nacua at 8,700, like only $1,000 more. And if the touchdowns start to go his way, the usage is going up a little bit, Kev. So he's 8,700. So it just tickles me. It tickles my fancy that you would be willing to pay 9,300 for Jonathan Taylor, knowing that. And again, it's a great matchup. Don't get me wrong. But the wide receivers, Kev, with the PPR format and how they can rack up points, if you're not interested in those guys, I just really don't understand. And obviously, I know you'll bring up Jamar Chase. So we'll just start it there, Kev, with the top end wide receivers. How much are you getting to them this week? How are you going to build your lineups? Are you just writing them off completely? And then we can open up the wide receiver slate from there.
No, I mean, I think if I was going to pay up for any of the top 3 wide receivers, it would be Chase or JSN. I think are the 2 that like I would have the most interest in. Like JSN, like don't get me wrong, I mean, this is an incredible spot here for JSN. I mean, Atlanta, their defense has been hot garbage. You know, I think there's some bounce back here. Obviously, JSN last week was obviously not good. 4.3 DraftKings points, like just completely killed you if you played him in any lineup. And like, yes, I think there's a positive regression coming here. And obviously, he's been one of the most consistent wide receivers all year. But my argument for him has been like all year for the most part, like more often than not, like he was never going to kill you at cost. And like, you know, maybe even Jonathan Taylor, once I get into really building a lot of lineups, maybe I move away from, you know, even having interest there because he is so expensive and how it limits your lineups. Because like JSN, yes, he's definitely capable. Like we've seen him in week 12, we put up, 40 DraftKings points. It's definitely there, right? But the question is like, are they going to be pushed? Like that's the question you have to ask yourself because this team is extremely run heavy. They have been all year. Like they want to run the ball, and like last week against the Titans, against the Vikings, like the Vikings didn't do anything offensively. The reason that one of the reasons why that he went off for the 40 DraftKings points against Tennessee is because they pushed him. It was 30-24. Now they led that game, but they kept scoring. They kept putting him in a position where they had to throw the ball a little bit more.
Which we said going into that week. I mean, I was kind of interested in JSN just from the standpoint that everybody wanted to play the running backs that week, and I'm like, yo, the JSN can fucking score the touchdowns. Like, what are we doing? Like, they might get run heavy later in the game, but nobody expected Tennessee to be able to put up points. It's like, well, they're just going to be rushing from the beginning. JSN's completely written off. This could be another slate. I mean, especially if you like Bijan, Kev. As much as you do, like, and you brought up Sam Darnold, like this would definitely be a week to target JSN.
Yeah, the matchup is incredible. Like it's a great matchup here for JSN. Like, but that's what you need. Like, it's the same thing with Sam Darnold. Like I talked about, like I like Sam Darnold. Like I think he's in play, as a quarterback play this week. So obviously, if he's in play, then obviously JSN's in play for me because that's the only player that I would really look to play with. I'm like, sure, Rashid Shaheed may be able to get there. AJ Barner. You know, you might be able to bring a third player along, but like if Sam Darnold's getting there, it's going to be through JSN. And so, like, I like JSN a lot at 9K. Like, I think he's definitely in play. My issue with Puka is like he could certainly have a nuclear spot. Like he could go out and give you 40 DraftKings points. Like it's 100% in the range of outcomes. Like he's incredible, but he is dealing with another alpha wide receiver in that wide receiver room. And the other question is like, can Arizona push the Rams to need to be able to do this? Yes, we've seen the Ram or the Cardinals offense play really well in garbage time, stuff like that. But if they don't necessarily get pushed and the Rams are able to control this outcome, is there enough volume there for Puka to really go off and kill you? Because like I've said, like Puka hasn't had a smash game since week 4. Like to have it, and he has consistently been above 8K for weeks, and like for 4 weeks in a row, he's giving you less than 20 DraftKings points. It's kind of wild to me that DraftKings hasn't priced him down at all. Like they continue to leave him up here in this upper echelon, and he hasn't come anywhere close to that. And so, like,
well, they have to though, Kev. You have no choice because when you see what he did at the beginning of the season, like if things start to break the way of getting back to that volume, he's going to be underpriced. He's going to be underpriced. I mean, 9K is fair for the volume he's seeing.
Well, volume he was seeing, but like, yes,
he's still got 20 targets over his past 2 games. He had 9 targets last week, 11 targets the week before that.
Right. But he's not.
I'm saying he was churning out 40 burgers, Kev, on 15 targets. That's just 4 more targets.
Right, but that was week 4, man. We were week.
I know,
We were in
but
week 14.
I get it. But so like we deal with injury, right? We deal with injury just for a week, but still was lingering. And so now we're getting back in. And you brought it up last week, like the snap share had kind of worked, it was working its way down. But now we see a little bit of a ramp up. They just got hit in the mouth, right, against Carolina. Now you got to go out and handle business on the road against Arizona. Like we could see them funnel some targets to them. So, these are the things I don't want to forget, even though it hasn't happened in a while, like he's still definitely capable of it. Now, what's interesting, Kev,
certainly.
too,
Like that, the argument was never that he's not capable. Again, that's not my argument. It's been like more often than not this year. If you just didn't play Puka Nacua, it didn't hurt you. Like the majority of the time this year, there's not been a time that like it's like, oh man, I wish I would have played Puka. Can he kill you? Absolutely. He is certainly that good. There's the upside is certainly there. But like if I had to put money on between Chase, Puka, and JSN to get there this week, I would easily put my money on Chase and JSN well before I got to Puka Nacua.
No, I love JSN. I guess my point would be is that I would be saying what can I do with my lineup to where I could get 2 of these fuckers in the lineup because of what they're capable of doing. Like even with the better spots that we're kind of talking about, Kev, like outside of game environments, I might, and the 2 guys are really Puka and JSN, because if I'm playing Chase, that game's going bananas. Like I gotta play Cook, I gotta play Josh Allen, I gotta play Burrow, I gotta just stack that game if I'm thinking Jamar Chase is going 40. I don't see a realm where we look back and it's like, oh well, if you just had Chase, you were fine. I could see that happening with Puka. I could see that happening with JSN, where these guys kind of just put out these outlier performances and nobody else on their team, really has done anything. Because if Puka's putting up 40, chances are that Devontae Adams has not caught 2 touchdowns. And we start to see those numbers start to come down. So I'm willing to say, what can I do with my lineup to get these 2 guys both in to see if they could hit that upper range of outcomes? Because we've seen, so many times we've been paying these mid-range wide receivers, and we can open it up and talk about them, because the projection models they're going to put. But it was like the same thing with Waddle last week. It was like, okay, so 6,800 Waddle, is one of the more popular plays, and, okay, that's fine. But how can I just get up to, Puka or Devontae or JSN, and really just like the floors on these guys are stupid, so it's like if they do hit the ceiling outcome, we could be set up for success. Now, the other thing this week too is that, and the reason why I'm even talking about JJ McCarthy is Justin Jefferson is 6,900. This is I'm just going to be on that spot. I think it'll be more popular than what it's even showing right now. I don't know where in the rankings of Justin Jefferson is for wide receivers, but that something's got to give here. It's a good matchup on paper. It's Justin Jefferson. People are forgetting about how good this motherfucker is, and I just want to be I want to be back early on that party. So I think that there's some merit there for him, and then we still got Addison. Jordan Addison is 4,900. Like, what in the hell, Kev? Like, the Minnesota stack is just so insanely cheap. You could still do some crazy things with your lineup. So, very crazy there. But there, mid-range, there are some plays. You talked about the indie side of potentially stacking Daniel Jones. I think Michael Pittman and both Alec Pierce. I have no idea what happened to Josh Downs. Like, he might be on milk carton watch, so to speak, but like it's a good matchup for all 3 of these guys, right? But Alec Pierce has seemed to take away a lot of the luster and flair that Josh Downs once had. So Michael Pittman, who's the guy that you always seem to talk about, Kev, and tend to get right. He's only 5,400 in this matchup. Definitely going to be a solid on paper play. On the other side there, Jacoby Myers at 5,700. If Parker Washington misses, like, he's just lock and load play for me with the pass volume that I expect the Jacksonville Jaguars to unload in this matchup. I'll just bite the bullet there and say, yeah, he's probably more of a cash game play, so to speak, on paper, what we think about, but I'll lock him in. Emeka Ibuka at 6,300. I think he's going to find his way back into into the mix in our DFS lives as we get closer to the playoffs and close to the end of the season with the rookie campaign that he's put together against his New Orleans team. I expect him to be peppered with targets from Baker Mayfield. So absolutely love getting to him. I'm curious to see what you're going to be doing with the Denver guys, Kev, because I do think it's a good matchup for them. Obviously it's like, who is it going to be? Cortland Sutton Day? Is it going to be a Troy Franklin Day? Is Bo Nix going to show up? We didn't even really touch on Bo Nix, but Troy Franklin has been pretty solid all year. He's only 5,500. That's nice, but then Cortland Sutton's at 5,600. So like, I think one of those guys is going to be strong on paper. Michael Wilson, if there's no Marvin Harrison, again, it might get simple for me because I'm locked and loaded with Myers. If Parker Washington's out, if there's no Marvin Harrison, I'm just going to go back to Michael Wilson. He's too cheap at 5,600 with the work that he's been seeing. And then there are, we talked about the Jets guys. They're still in the 4K range, Mitchell and Mechie. That is, other than that, outside of game stacks, I probably won't get to most of these guys. Jordan Addison could end up being a one-off play for me at 4,900, just because of the volume I'm expecting from JJ McCarthy. And he's just cheap, that's $2,000 cheaper than Jordan Jefferson. But I'm going to toss it to you, Kev, because I'm really, I'm curious to hear what you're thinking about the mid-range, but also if you're playing Jordan Love, who are you stacking him with?
That one's easy. Very easy for me. It's Christian Watson. So last week he was targeted 10 times, 4 for 80 and a score. Really solid game. But like over his last 3 games, he's actually averaging 7.3 targets per game, 4.5 receptions per game, and over 16 DraftKings points per game. And he's cheap. So I think Christian Watson at $5,200, really love the spot. He's also there's been a clear effort to really get him the ball. He actually leads the team with a 36% first read target share. He's also been really good with a 2.5 yards per route run, which ranks top 10. So, and like I've said, like this sets up, like I've already mentioned, like the Bears allow the third most receptions, 20 plus yards. This suits Christian Watson's 19.4 average depth of target, third highest among all wide receivers. So I think Watson is an incredible play here, especially at cost at $5,200. Like he's probably one of my favorite 5K wide receiver, right behind Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson, I highly, highly doubt Marvin Harrison plays at this point. He's missed Wednesday and Thursday with a heel injury. I mean, the Cardinals aren't playing for anything. I just don't see any reason for them to put him back out there. And it's Jonathan Gannon was asked today. He was pretty non-committal about him playing. I highly doubt he plays. And also, Greg Dortch also missed as well. So, like, this could be very consolidated. We've seen Michael Wilson with Greg Dortch out there, get games where he sees 15, 18 targets. Like, he can approach that again in this game. I do expect that with Marvin Harrison gets rolled out, like Michael Wilson's ownership is going to skyrocket, I do believe. But Michael Wilson, though, obviously had a little bit of a down game last week, but certainly capable. We've already seen it. And the Rams are much more of a pass funnel. Deal 13th most DraftKings points to wide receivers. So, Michael Wilson would definitely be in play at cost. Jacoby Myers, you brought him up. Love Jacoby Myers this week. And he's actually been really this team's number one wide receiver since being acquired from the Raiders. And now last week he only received 6 targets. They didn't really have to throw the ball all that much, but he has scored a touchdown in back-to-back games. And I think he's also a really solid play. The Colts allow the 8th most DraftKings points. Also should be mentioned that Sauce Gardner's not going to be playing this game. And if we remember what the Colts secondary looked like prior to that, it was Swiss cheese. I mean, they were just getting shredded. And so I do think Jacoby Myers, but I will say Parker Washington returned to practice today. So it looks like he's at least on track to play this week. But either way, it doesn't really matter to me. Parker Washington last week was only targeted 3 times, but Myers is a really good play. I listen, I would love to be able to sit here and tell you that Brian Thomas Jr. Is going to have a bounce back and like maybe you can play him. I can't do it. I'm not doing it with Brian Thomas. He's 5,900. Like, no way. Just give me Jacoby Myers. I actually think that I know this doesn't matter for what we're talking about right now, but I don't think Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be a Jaguar after this year. I don't think that he is a good fit for this
Wow.
offense for the Liam Cohen scheme. I think he is on his way out. I don't think he wants to be there. And I think Jacoby Myers is a great fit for this offense. And we've already kind of seen this rapport with Trevor Lawrence. So Jacoby Myers, really solid
That's
play.
incredible.
Adonai Mitchell, love him as well. Again this week, the Dolphins have allowed the ninth most receiving touchdowns to wide receiver this year. Adonai, we've kind of been waiting for it, right? He's seen 25 targets over his last 3 games, and he finally broke out last week with 8 for 24 or 8 for 102 and 24 drafts. I know a lot of people are going to feel like this is point chasey, and I guess on some level it is. I actually agree with you. I think Mechie is also still a good play. I think that he just was unlucky. Like you said, he dropped what he should have had a touchdown. Like he dropped 2 or 3 balls in that game that he should have had. And because I ended up splitting the ownership between Adonai and Mechie because I felt like both of them, had some upside there. And so, the Mechie team obviously didn't help me at all. But still, I think Adonai and Mechie, I think, are both very good plays. And I do agree with you. I think there's a real chance that Mechie is probably going to be vastly overlooked, and he shouldn't be. I think if you're looking for some value wide receivers, Devon Vele is sub 4K. I think he's in play as well. Again, could be viewed as a little bit point chasey, considering last week he had 8 for 93 and a score. But again, this is what I really look for, is over the last 2 weeks, he's been targeted 15 times, and he's running 86% of the routes for a player that is, I think, $3,800. I will take that. The Bucks are a little bit more of a pass funnel. They allow, the 11th most DraftKings points to wide receivers like him. Now, you talked about the Broncos wide receivers, and I think conventional wisdom says, okay, it's Courtland Sutton or Troy Franklin. I would push back and tell you that I think Pat Bryant might be actually the favorite here because he's running 67% of the routes, but he actually leads all wide receivers with a 22% target per route run rate, and he also leads all receivers with a 21% first read target share over the last 3 games. So, yes, it's Sean Payton. We see weird things from him and how they typically do things, but he is a rookie, and he's starting to emerge as a real threat to this offense right now. And great matchup. Raiders allow the 6th most DraftKings points to wide receivers, and he's only $3,400. So I really like Pat Bryant as another cheap, kind of value play on this slate that you can get access to. So I think he's also playing. I think between Pat Bryant and Devon Vele, I think those are the 2 that are sub 4K that I could see myself getting to. The 2 players that I did want to ask you about, though, is Terry McLaurin. He's 5,200, and then that is incredibly too cheap for him. Saw 14 targets last week at his roll back when he came back last week. It gets, that was with Pat Surtain, mind you, okay? Like, this was not like the Pat Surtain-less Broncos that they were facing that had him out there, and he still performed really well. Should have had another touchdown that got taken away from him, but still really good, really solid play for Terry McLaurin. And then the other one, who's the other one I wanted to ask you about? Now I can't think of who it was. Maybe it'll come to me. But there was Mike Evans. Do you think Mike Evans plays?
I don't think Mike Evans plays this week. But I think it's definitely an interesting talking point. I don't think he plays, which is why I'm kind of leaning towards Abuka as much early on. But I guess we'll see, and that could end up being one of Shefty's midnight 1 a.m. bombs. Heading into the Sunday morning that we do get him activated. So that would be it. What would be frustrating, Kev, is that they say that Mike Evans is active, right, and we don't see him. Basically the reverse of what we saw Thursday Night Football with Amon-Ra St. Brown, where Amon-Ra St. Brown, we're expecting him to miss some time, but he's an Iron Man. He really hasn't missed. Yada 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 yada. He goes out there and is still able to pop off in a full gamut of runs. So it is interesting that Evans is coming back. He's been whatever it is. I don't even know what the streak is, but 10 seasons, 11 seasons of 1,000 yards. Obviously, not really going to hit that with the time that he's missed. But if they're still in the mix there. I think him and Baker have a strong rapport, so that'll be something to monitor. Who did you ask me about?
McLaurin.
McLaurin's my favorite. McLaurin's my favorite bring back. If I'm playing JJ McCarthy sacks, 5,200's weight. I mean, 5,200 is just stupid. I mean, it's not a free square at that price, but like if Jaden Daniels is back, like how do you get away from that? Like he would just be, one of the lock and load plays for me on the slate in that matchup. Even with Mariota being out there, I think he's my favorite bring back on Washington, bar none. It is interesting you brought up the Chris Rodriguez stuff, so I'll play around with that as I usually do, just to see what the builds look like. But yeah, F1 was the guy that I had penciled in for that.
Yeah, that's all I really wanted to ask about. But yeah,
who did you say was your favorite Colt wide receiver this week, Kev? Or if you didn't, who was your favorite one to target?
I'd probably would go with Michael Pittman.
Yeah,
I know last week he didn't really do a whole lot, but I think
that's been your guy all year. I think you've brought him up on every Colts Main Slate podcast that we've done this year. So no surprise.
I will say though, my favorite Colt though, it's really, I guess a good transition to tight end would be Tyler Warren though.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about tight end because honestly, Kev, the way that the slate's shaping up, it might be a 2 tight end week for me playing cheap. I just I want to be able to fit in so many of these higher priced guys, and the cheap tight ends have been fucking getting after it. Like we could get Dawson Knox, as ugly as it sounds. Like I probably won't play him as a one-off, but he's only 2,800. I think he's interesting to be able to pair with the popular Josh Allen. Trey McBride is AK, and it's fair. I mean, it's still fair. I really don't care what anybody says. It's just how the fuck do you get them in the lineups this week? I really don't know. But hey, more power to you if you can find a way to fit it in and it makes sense. I haven't been able to get myself to be able to build in that way, shape, or form yet. Brock Bowers is too cheap still. I mean, what does the guy need to do? Like we talked about him being too cheap last week at whatever it was, 5,600, and now DraftKings only prices him up a couple $100. It is a matchup against Denver there, but it's a new coordinator. The volume that he's seeing is absolutely incredible. I think somebody in the chat was talking about, the way that they're just trying to get Genty and Bowers the ball, and that's definitely what it feels like. So at 6K, I want to try and find a way to get exposure to him at least onto one of my 3 builds, one of my 5 builds. You mentioned Tyler Warren there. That's definitely an intriguing play to me in that game environment that I want to attack. But I think for me, it's I at this point in time, I got to look at these cheap guys. First one that comes to mind is Britton Strange. I mentioned that I never play Trevor Lawrence, but if I'm playing him this week, I'm going to attack him with Jacoby Myers. I'm going to attack him with Britton Strange and see what I can do with that player block. Juwan Johnson is in the mix for me in that New Orleans Tampa Bay game with the way that he's kind of been utilized in the offense. Mason Taylor, honestly, would be a guy that I look to. He saw a handful of targets, like only 4 last week, but he's kind of been in the mix, 4 or 5 targets against Miami. If they're seeing underneath stuff, maybe he becomes in play for me. Other than that, in the real cheap range, the only other guy. And this isn't real cheap, but the only other guy, I guess, Kev, before I toss to you, would be Harold Fannin at 3,700. Wanted to, get on him. And I think it was it last week or the week before that we had the weather game that Cleveland was going to be involved in and potentially no Njoku, but it didn't really feel like we could, get there with Fannin. But, Fannin, for what it's worth, seems to, have somewhat of a rapport with Shador. And if we get him in this matchup here against Tennessee without Njoku, I could definitely get behind that. So yeah, I mean, tight end's weird because I think I'm going to look for pay down options to be able to fit in the high price guys. But then I keep coming back to why is Brock Bowers 6K, and how can I get back to him and see what that's going to be offering. What say you, Kev? What are you looking at from the tight end position outside of Tyler Warren? But talk to the people about Tyler Warren first.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's an incredible spot here for him. The Jaguars have been terrible against opposing tight ends. They have been all year. So I think this is a great spot for Tyler Warren to, have a pop-off type game, have a big game. He's only 5K. Like, he's not quite as restrictive as like $1,000 cheaper than Bowers, $2,000 or $3,000 cheaper, than McBride. And it's kind of funny, like the way it's just like, so McBride was $7,800 last week, and it's like, yeah, people are like, oh yeah, I have no problem playing him now. This week he's like, he's 8K. Well, I don't know, he's 8K now. Like, we need to, like, I'm like, it's a difference, okay? Like, he was 7,800 last week, now he's 8K, and like he's still too cheap. Like, he probably should be close to 9K. He should be in the JSN range. You want to know why? Because he's putting up the similar usage. He's put up the same production as that dude is. Like, he is absolutely crushing it every single week. And he is constantly seeing less than 9 targets every single game, right?
The real question is, Kev, do you feel like McBride should be more expensive than Puka Nacua?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, yes.
That's where it really comes down to.
Yeah. I mean, he has 2 30-point games in 2 of his last 4 games. I mean, like yes, absolutely. And they're probably going to be playing from a negative game script, so they're going to be throwing the ball a ton. You're going to be without Marvin Harris Jr. again. And so, like, yeah, I think McBride is certainly in play. Now, the question is, like, trying to get all these other guys in, like, can you get to it? That's the tougher part when it comes to McBride. But, yes, outside of him and Tyler Warren, I think the other ones you kind of already brought up, Brent Strange, absolutely love him. Since returning in Week 12, obviously small sample, but still, he's racked up the 4th most receiving yards, and he's been a top 5 tight end over those 2 weeks. And this is a great matchup. The Colts allow 3rd most DraftKings points to tight ends this year. So I think Brenton Strange is 100% play at 3,900. Right below him, Darren Waller also is a very good play. Now, I was actually surprised with Darren Waller that he came back and played as much as he did last week. He actually ran 19 of the possible 29 routes, which I thought he was going to be a little bit more lower than that, just to kind of work him back in, considering he's coming off injury. But he's not. Still at $3,800, I think he's a very strong. He's one of the options you could look for in a run back option if you wanted to run a jet stack. But Darren Waller, I think, is somebody you could definitely look at 3,800. He's going to be heavily involved in the red zone, or somebody that is going to see looks inside the red zone. I think I like him. And then past that, like, cheap tight ends. I know you brought up Dawson Knox, but like it's tough for me too, because I was so excited to play Dalton Kincaid. Because obviously this is like the flow chart. Like, the Bengals are on the slate, but you play a tight end against them. Like, it's just, you do it. Because the Bengals have been so incredibly bad to tight ends this year. But, like, Dawson Knox sees like 3 or 4 targets a game. Could he score a touchdown? Absolutely. Is he super cheap? Yes. Like, so I get the play all day, because this is, like I said, the best matchup you possibly could ask for. But if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's probably going to get you like 3 or 4 DraftKings points. And, like, that's the tough part. With them. The matchup is certainly there. Like I said, I was praying that we were going to get Dalton Kincaid back, but it doesn't sound like he probably will play if this dude's walking around with this huge knee brace on. If he does, it sounds like a Brock Bowers type situation where he is ineffective and he's not the same guy that he was. So that's what would worry me with that. But other than that, though, I'll be pretty condensed. I want to play Tyler Warren. I'll try to fit in, Brock Bowers, Trey McBride if I can, but I really want to focus on Tyler Warren. And then, like I said, Brenton Strange, Darren Waller. I think those are my favorite plays. You could probably talk me into Mark Andrews too against Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh has also been really bad against tight ends. But I think that's where I would get to.
Yeah, definitely Mark Andrews is in play, and honestly, likely might be in play with the way this offense has been shaping up. Just not anybody. Really, the receiver, it's the same kind of situation in Buffalo. It's like these receivers cannot be trusted. So it's like, the tight ends and the running back have to do it all. But yeah, no, if you know, you mentioned it, and it is unfortunate about Dalton Kincaid, because if he was to play, like, he was going to be just a slam dunk. Like, how do you get away from this dude in a matchup like that at 4-3?
4,300.
Yeah, but because of the brace and everything that's going on there, it makes it a little bit tough. But yeah, tight end's been fun all season, Kevin. It's just like, it just takes me back to the days of, you know, doldrums of the summer, when we're just, hoping to be breaking down, right, a week 14 slate with the DJ Nation fam, and it's like, oh, you got to draft, one of the 6 tight ends early. You can't stream tight end. They're too valuable. And here we are, how many weeks have we been talking about of the 2 tight end model being viable? All these 3K tight ends who are in play. Like, it's just one of the more streamable positions. But, shout out to Trey McBride, who's holding it down. And, Brock Bowers will probably be soon to follow. Probably not in that 8K range, but, I definitely think that he'll be higher than 6K before this season is up. Kev, let's talk defense and, get the DJ Nation fam with the DK build for the Millie Maker. Get them up out of here. Shout out to the DJ Nation fam who's been rocking along with us. Everybody who's been in the chat. If you're listening back and like, yep, there they go. There's Ryan and Kev. That's what we remember when we first got into this iteration of the DJ Nation podcast of the 90-minute shows. Bring back the 90-minute shows is what the people are saying, or maybe they're not saying that because we were good for an hour. But this is a fun slate. This is a fun slate to break down, and we've been appreciating everybody. We've been appreciating everybody who's rocking along with us live, and if you've been listening this far, we appreciate that too. Kev, at defense, it's going to be pretty straightforward for me. I mean, if I can find the salary to pay up for Broncos or Browns, Broncos or Browns, that's what I'm going to be trying to do. I think they're in a credible spot to be able to rack up pressure points with the sacks and hopefully force some turnovers there. So love that. The Steelers defense, for as bad as they were, to kind of start the year, again, we've been poo-pooing on Baltimore all pod. So how would I not play the Steelers at 2,600 if they're able to get some pressure and make life tough, even with it being on the road? I think that's interesting. The Jets at 2,500. We mentioned the Jets is cheap last week. They're 2,400. I think they had a return touchdown, if I'm not mistaken, Gav, which definitely kept them viable. But they're going against this Miami team who, Miami pieces are definitely going to look good, but it is Tua on the other side. He's bound to make some mistakes. So, can take advantage of that with a cheap defense there. I also am intrigued by a 2,900 Titans D. I have not played them at all pretty much this season, unless they've been minimum price. That was like 2 weeks ago when I was on the Titans just because of what they did for the build. But, going against Shedeur Sanders and how they're playing, it is weird. I really don't like attacking Cleveland when they're at home. The dog pound just absolutely shows out for this team. But, this Titans defense might be in for a day the way they've been playing late. That's really where it kind of shapes out for me, Kev, thus far. What are you seeing for defense this week, and what do you plan on doing?
How about the $2,800 Commanders?
Okay.
So I know you're like the Vikings, but I think the Commanders are in a really good spot. The Vikings currently allow a sack on 10% of dropbacks, which ranks just behind the Raiders. They also have thrown an interception on 4.4% of dropbacks, worst in the league. And they're allowing almost 12 DraftKings points per game to opposing defenses. So, yeah, I'm going to like the Commanders at $2,800. I like the Titans call as well. I think both of those two are like the sub 3K defenses that you could get to. I don't hate the Steelers either. Even before, Lamar was playing poorly. The Steelers always seem to have the Ravens' number, and these games are always really pretty low scoring, defensive battles like between these two teams. They know each other really well. And so I do like the call of the Steelers as well at 2,600. I think, again, another pretty interesting spot to get to. So I think those would be like the 3 cheap calls. I would say that because last week the nut spot was going to the Seahawks, right? Getting up there, getting that 4K Seahawks last week against the Vikings. And, what was it? 30 DraftKings points or whatever it was they put up. They They were the nuts. And so the Broncos could easily be that again this week, against the Raiders at $3,900. So, yeah, if you could figure out a way to get up there, I'm okay with, I'm fine with getting up there. The play definitely warrants it, but I will probably stick more in the sub 3K range of Titans, Commanders, and Steelers.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, salary is definitely going to be of the essence. So the cheaper that you can get, you can probably find something to do with those couple of $100. But yeah, Browns and Broncos could be in for a wrecking day. And it hasn't been. We were able to play cheap defenses and really feel good about it because we really weren't having crazy pop-up scores at the start of the year, Kev. But now that we're getting these defenses and really favorable, I mean, if you didn't have the Seahawks last week, you really were kicking yourself there because of the way they showed out. So that could be the same thing. And that could be the same thing for Washington too, Kev, especially. We got to be thinking about both sides. Like JJ McCarthy has not been good, and if he's not getting there, then they're probably able to wreak some havoc on him. So at 2,300 or 2,800, I definitely don't mind that call. Kev, let's build a team for the people and get them on out of here. DJ Nation fam, it's the DJ Nation podcast powered by the Fantasy Authority. You can follow us on Twitter and X at FF_authority. We appreciate all the love and support we've been getting and appreciate you guys rocking along with us, especially tonight as we go long on breaking the Week 14 main slate down. But this 11-gamer, Kev, needs a Millie Maker team from the DJ Nation pod, and we got to be able to do that right now. I'm going to start the lineup this week, and as much as I know the people listening would love it, they would love it, Kev, for me to go JJ McCarthy on this build. I am not. I'm going to go ahead and go to the running back position, and I'm going to start it with James Cook. I mean, if he's one of my favorite players on the slate, and if I'm starting any team, I'm probably going to look there first. Where are you going, Kev?
Joe Burrow.
Let's go. Let's game stack it up. We're playing Burrow, so I'm going to go ahead and put Jamar Chase in. Although I do think that T on Joe Burrow teams is interesting at only 62.
Yeah, it sounds like he's going to play. He's still in concussion protocol, but he got in the full practice today, so he should be cleared tomorrow. He should be good to go. Unless he has some sort of setback, so he should be good. But I know we didn't talk about it, but as part of a stack, I'm okay with it. So I thought let me hold off. I was going to go with Mike Gesicki, but I'm like, do we need to do that now? Let's see. I don't hate it, but it's
not with fucking Drew Sample and Tanner Hudson catching touchdowns as well.
And that was pretty tilting.
So tilting. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna go with this direction. Let's go Chase Brown. Chase Brown. Last week still saw 7 targets in that game. He's going to be heavily. He's going to be involved in the passing game. So let's go Chase Brown.
Let's get interesting here, and I'm gonna. No. Let's just go ahead and throw him in. Let's throw Jacoby Myers in.
All right, then we'll do a little correlation, and we'll go Tyler Warren at tight end.
I like it. Put Warren in. Now let's just go ahead and do what we normally do, Kev, and put our defense in. I'm honestly going to put in the Commanders D at 2,800 for now. That gives us 3,650 to play around with 2 spots left. Let's see what we can do salary relief wise in the flex. If we go, where is he? Feels weird. Can't really do strange.
You can do strange if you want.
That's who I was looking at to put in the flex. Who do you have then?
Pat Bryant.
If we play, okay, which uses all the salary. Is there a cheaper like what if we played with $300 to get us anything worthwhile at wide receiver?
It's only going to get you up to 3,700. I mean, if we wanted to get
Von
something,
Bailey.
if we wanted to really change it, I mean, and get something more, we could drop in RJ Harvey. Instead of playing Chase Brown. That frees up 1,000. In either, I mean, nobody in that range though that really does anything for me.
Like it'd be a Jets one-off. So, but I'm not necessarily in love with that either. So yeah, we'll work with this. We'll see what we can do with this. Throw in Commanders D, throw in Britton Strange, throw in Pat Bryant, and that's all the salary. I mean, if Joe Burrow's popping off, Kev, we need him with. I shouldn't say that because Chase could go out there and get 40. Damn, he could get 50, and it might be enough. But I always feel like it's nice to have Joe Burrow double stacked in some way, shape, or form. So let's run it. Chase Brown, Joe Burrow is our quarterback for the DJ Nation podcast Millie Maker build this week. We got James Cook and Chase Browns as our running back, Jamar Chase, Jacoby Myers, Pat Bryant round out the wide receivers. Double tight end build for the DJ Nation team this week with Tyler Warren and Britton Strange. And then the Commanders D going against JJ McCarthy to lock it out. The Emily Makers is submitted. And that's going to put a bow and a cap on the week 14 breakdown of the DJ Nation slate. DJ Nation fam, we're back in full swing. We only got a couple more weeks left. Why would we not go over 90 minutes on a podcast to be able to break it down for you guys? A lot of goodness that we got for each position. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys go back and listen, and hope these things come to fruition as you are building your lineups, whether that be through the week, whether that be on the weekend, or whether that be right before Sunday. And you're hoping, hey, when inactives come out, I usually have enough time to take over my lineups. Oh no, when inactives come out on Sunday and you're listening to this podcast, it will go over lock. So you definitely want to make sure that you get your lineups in. But no, I had a fun one breaking it down with you, Kev. Definitely a fun slate compared to what we had last week. And we hope the DJ Nation fam enjoys it too. It's the DJ Nation podcast. We're powered by the Fantasy Authority at FF_authority is where you can find us on Twitter and X. Did that week 14 breakdown for the people. Kev, any last words for the people before we sign out?
Nope. I think it's a fun slate. I think it's way better than last week's. And so, yeah, I think there's some clear paths to go. And I think there's actually some pretty decent value on the slate too. So
I agree. No, and definitely some value that could still be left uncovered. So definitely going to be a one where we want to pay attention going into Friday, going into the Saturday inactives, and even Sunday morning. But DJ Nation fam, we'll let you get on your way to go build those lineups. For Kevin Steele, you know him as the godfather of TFA. You know him on Twitter and X at FantasyRat13. Myself, Ryan Williams. You can find me on Twitter and X at RyanAlexander_W. We just broke down week 14 for you. We'll be back next week to break down the week 15 DFS picks. But until then, you guys know what to do. We'll see you in the streets. Get that money. We'll see you next time. Peace.